two guys and a gal talking about movies. Two guys and a gal talking about movies. Two guys and a gal, they're talking about movies, and you know they are really groovy. Two guys and a gal talking about movies. Two guys and a gal talking about movies. Two guys and a gal, they're talking about movies, and we know they are really groovy.
Wow. Hello.
And here we are. We're all together. Yay.
And here we are.
I had a lot of fun during that song.
It's Diane
I like
Call.
your song, Diane.
Yes, she's so talented.
Yes. Who can't listen to that song without
I was grooving to it.
Nabbing them fingers.
Exactly. You know, she's our own little Danny Elfman.
It was perfect.
No, then the theme song would be two guys and a gal. I talk about movies.
Yeah, so you could have thrown in, you could have been, you know, done a little Pee-wee voice. Two gals.
And there's a gal.
There you go. There you go.
We got two gals.
And today we get to have two gals, which I love. It's double good trouble. See, some women power.
That's right. Yeah.
We have to get Diane to create another version of the theme song that says two guys and two gals.
I know. We should. And we're here.
And the theme song that says three guys and a gal. I guess we have a guy guest.
Yes, exactly.
Three guys and a gal. Talking about. Then we're ready for all of them.
There you go.
So you may all wonder why I've gathered you here today. We are gathered here today to discuss Quentin Tarantino.
Dun, dun, dun.
Quentin Jerome Tarantino. Quentin Jerome Tarantino.
Jerome. Oh, that is so.
Isn't that great? I just found that out today. Yes.
I think I've said this story on the show before, but Tom Savini, who is one of the greatest makeup artists, effects makeup artists in the business, did a lot of the George Romero dead pictures, and basically created a lot of the stuff that they use in Hollywood today. The practical
in
effects
Pittsburgh.
Yes,
shout out to
exactly.
Yeah.
And he said there was a fan that used to come up to him, a geeky fan. You just always had like a zillion things for him to sign. And he was polite to the guy and he signed everything. And he said he was so glad that he treated him respectfully because the guy was kind of an annoyance at times. Had a lot of questions for him. He always answered his questions. Because later it turned out to be Quentin Tarantino. And he ended up starring in a couple of his, starring with him in a couple of movies. Yeah.
So can I throw in my 2 cents about Savini for a second?
Sure.
So I have a friend. That knows him in college. Then I went to their house and Tom Savini and his partner at the time, his wife, I guess, they were lovely. And we were playing a beautiful game of Scrabble, which I won. So I use this as my bragging rights all the time. I mean, because they're from Pittsburgh, so it's it's not. No, it's a big deal to us, but it's like Mr. Rogers. He's like, I know Mr. Rogers. It's
Yeah.
Well, that's really nice for you to say that, Elana.
He lives in my neighborhood.
he lived in your neighborhood? You had a little trolley?
He did. He was my neighbor. He actually knew that it was nice to be my neighbor.
Yeah. So it was you he was singing to the whole time.
The whole time.
That's Elana out the window. He's my neighbor.
Creepy girl that keeps waving.
Now we know.
Michael Keaton used to work on his show. Was one of he actually was he was one of the guys who worked the trolley, and he was one of the techs on the show.
It's very cool.
Way back,
when I was little, we've got that was one of the field trips. We would go to all of these different places, and that was really like, it didn't even, I just thought it was normal. And then when I started talking to people and they're like, well, we didn't get to go see, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. I'm like,
Really?
I did. And he even was my neighbor. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
Pittsburgh
it.
has
Bragging
some
rights.
pretty great things.
Yeah.
And back to Quentin Tarantino.
Yes, we're here to talk about Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah.
Not me. Okay, fine.
Yeah. Renee usually has just a brilliant introduction. I don't know. I think we cut her off.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Perhaps.
Ray.
No, we didn't, because when we have a guest, when we have a guest, I usually don't do that, because then the guest gets to sort of talk about why they like the,
Oh, okay.
a little bit more. So
You
I
didn't
don't think
prepare
I
your
don't think I
Quentin
did it
Tarantino
when we,
monologue, did you, Renee?
well, he was born in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I know about him. I looked him up, but he did, and he's known for being he's known for stylized violence. He's known for a lot of cuss words. He's a naughty boy, action, and that type of thing, and over the top. He's very colorful and very grandiose, and that. But he wrote his first screenplay when he was 14. And it was, but his mother was very mean to him, and she said he's a very bad writer. So he said that when he grows up and makes money, he won't give her any of his fortune. I don't know how that panned out. I'm not sure how that panned out.
I'm guessing he didn't do it.
I don't know. He likes to talk in these definite. It's like he has like this little war with David Lynch, right? That we found out when we discussed Lynch. He's like he can't just say, yeah, that's not really cool. He's like, why can't that guy get his head out of his, everything's very.
Yeah, he definitely has some very definite
He
opinions.
needs to tell a story, okay? He can't tell a story.
Okay.
All right.
And as is tradition on the show, when we have a guest, the guest always goes first as far as listings. So what's your number one, Elana? Quentin.
Wait, my number one or my number five?
We go 1 to 5.
Yeah, you're number one.
So
The one you like the best.
The best one to me is Kill Bill. I am obsessed with Kill Bill.
Okay.
I'm not ashamed to admit it. I am very upset that it is 2 separate movies. I wish they would have kept it as one movie. It is brilliant storytelling. It is so, as I told the two of you another time, I was raised on Dirty Harry, and some very violent movies that I probably shouldn't have been, James Bond. So to me, if the violence is doing something, it's not a big deal.
Right.
And here, the violence isn't even violence. To me, it's art. I mean, like the one scene, especially
Red
with
on the walls.
Lucy Liu, oh my God, in the snow, it is so beautiful. And the way he juxtaposes the music with what is happening in the scene and the visuals, and he's drawing from so many different genres, it's just mind-blowing. The storytelling is non-linear, which of course I always like best, and it's so well crafted. Like, what the story is, you understand. Like, it doesn't matter that you're getting these glimpses here and there. And I love, there are a couple little moments that are just really these tender, tiny moments that you get from Quentin Tarantino every so often, and it's definitely in Kill Bill. The fight between Jada Pinkett Smith, I'm pretty sure it's her, and the bride, who's Uma Thurman. It's like she gives her time to be a mom and put her, child somewhere safe. And then, there's this, I think it's like a Eastern influence kind of respect that they show each other. And I could go on seriously for days. I adore this movie. I saw an article that there is my fingers are crossed. Hopefully a Kill Bill 3, but I definitely sat in that theater. I was very unhappy to leave and have to wait.
He's dead. He's already
dead. Yeah, we killed him. But I'm ready to watch it again.
Kill Bill 3. He's killed.
Totally dead.
He's already dead.
Such a great movie. And I also love that, like, so many of those movies, you know, he works in these genres. And so, like, with Uma Thurman, I don't know. Like, I was reading some things that people sometimes see him as misogynistic, and I actually don't really see that at all. I see that there's so many people, so many women who are in power in these movies and who do these cunning plots that, you know, you're not expecting from them. And I really appreciate that. So I don't know. I've always been a fan. I remember seeing Reservoir Dogs in 1992, you know, in college. It was my first year of college, and I am totally, you know, this is what I live for. He's great. And Kill Bill is just, it has my heart. So what's number one for you guys?
He's hit or miss for me. You know, some of his stuff is brilliant for me, and some of it's like, come on, you know, you're just over the top. No, come on.
Yeah.
So, okay, go ahead, Manny.
Well,
what's your number one?
My number one, and you know, it's funny because Kill Bill almost was my number one for a while, but in the end, I said no, I got to go with my gut, and I got to go with my heart. And for me, it's Pulp Fiction.
That's what I was expecting. Same here. It's an amazing movie. That's why I said it was different, because it's what I thought.
Yeah. I mean, good. But Kill Bill,
in my mind, he never topped it. He hasn't topped it yet.
Yeah. There's nothing that I don't love about this movie. It is, for me, it is a master class in filmmaking, storytelling.
Yeah.
Everything's perfect about it. The cast, the music, the cinematography, the action. I love the fact, just like you said about the nonlinear storytelling.
Right.
And I didn't know any of that when I first went to see it, because I saw Reservoir Dogs. Actually, no, I didn't see Reservoir Dogs. I saw it later. Actually, Pulp Fiction was the first one that I saw. And
that's an interesting intro to him.
Yeah, and
I'm the same way. I saw Reservoir Dogs after Pulp Fiction because I thought, oh my God, this movie is so fantastic. I got to see what else he's done. And it's like, oh, he's only done one other movie?
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. It's just a perfect movie. I can't find anything wrong with it. It's one of those movies that it's definitely, well, I haven't seen it in a really while. You know, I definitely need to watch it again. But it's so, whenever it's on TV or whatever, I can't change the channel. I mean, I will watch it. It is such a beacon of pop culture, you know. It's like it defines.
And I think for me, what fascinated me, because, you know, I've been watching movies since I was a boy, you know, like the rest of us, or as you were a girl, you know, not to misgender anybody, but no, you know, and you get used to a certain kind of dialogue, a certain kind of, you know, movie dialogue, and Tarantino broke all the rules with that. You know, I mean, you have these two hitmen who are talking about, you know, cheeseburgers and what have you in the car, you know, talking about, you know, visiting Amsterdam and everything that went on there. And then you go into the whole thing where they're going to pick up this suitcase or this briefcase, and that whole scene, you know, and then it's just the dialogue is one of Tarantino's strengths. Sometimes it's his downfall, but for the most part, it's his strength, because it's so unique and it's such his voice. You know, when you hear his characters talking, you hear Quentin talking, because that's how he talks.
But it's also like I remember watching, so I was a theater major, and his stuff was so cool because I'm sure we'll talk about Reservoir Dogs later, so I won't really say anything. But having been introduced to it, like first year of college, there's Reservoir Dogs, like whatever. And I was also a writer, so I was a writer, and his language, his style, his dialogue, everything is so specifically his, but also so specifically ours, like my generation sitting there and having conversations. Like I remember after Pulp Fiction, you couldn't go anywhere without somebody asking you about a Big Mac. Like that was like everywhere. It was huge.
Royale with cheese.
A Royale with cheese.
Yeah. Like, why do they call that? It's like, who are you? I'm waiting for coffee. But it was everywhere. And I love that too. Like, I don't know if you guys are fans of David Mamet, but you know who David Mamet is? Yeah, it's like this hard.
Oh yeah, we know.
Yeah, and he's so. I'm a huge Mamet fan because of his language, and so I think that if you're going to watch Tarantino and you can see where it comes from, you can see him paying homage to these. I love it. It's kind of like, I'm sorry, I'm talking so much. This is the last thing I'm going to say for a little while. But there are so many coincident or parallels between, now bear with me, Tarantino and Lynch, because they both welcome you into this like dream world that now you have to agree to live in. So it's pretty... I mean, it was pretty magical at the time, for sure. And still is. Okay, now.
I definitely get Mamet, whatever his name is. I definitely get it in Reservoir Dogs and The Hateful Eight. I definitely get it.
Absolutely. It's almost like...
Plan something happy afterwards.
It's almost like Mamet wrote it. If you hadn't... no.
What could be the most depressing ending for this film? I know. Kill all the characters. Kill them all.
Everybody dies.
And violently.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on Pulp Fiction? What are your thoughts?
Again, he had the soundtrack before he wrote the film. And I remember buying that soundtrack and playing the hell out of it for months and months and months after that movie came out, because it was just so good. And again, so all ends of the spectrum. I mean,
but he single-handedly.
Excuse me. The people that he really, and this is very impressive because this was true about Reservoir Dogs too. I mean, that was a very low budget film, and he managed to pull in, a lot of, I won't say A-listers, but they're heavy hitters, like Michael Madsen. He made a star out of Tim Roth.
Definitely,
I love Tim Roth.
Sean Penn's brother, was it Chris Penn?
Chris Penn,
So there was a lot of name quality in that.
I read something
and the same with Pulp Fiction.
I
mean, God, when you think of the cast he pulled together for that.
Yeah, I heard that he got Harvey Keitel in, like worked out. I mean, he at the time he was working in a video store, so he actually is the American dream. And then he sent it to, and Harvey Keitel agreed to do it because I guess he loved the script. And at that point, it's like, hey, I have Harvey Keitel in my movie, and who doesn't want to work with him? So he really was very clever the way that he,
well, after a famous, it was easy for him to pull in a cast, an A-list cast for movies. But those first two films, it's amazing who he got to be in the cast for those movies. He wrote the part of, is it Jules? He wrote that for Samuel L. Jackson. Right. And Jackson came in. I remember reading this story. Jackson came in and he bombed at the audition. And he's like, oh, wow, I wrote this for you. And he's like, "Oh man, just give me one more day. Let me come back in, and I'll nail it for you." And he did. But the first time he auditioned for it, they thought they were going to have to give it to somebody else,
Wow.
and it was written for him.
Can you I
So
can't even imagine
again,
anybody else.
He's the
being
reason
that role. Like that's the other. He finds the casting is impeccable in all of his. Well, all the movies I've seen. There are a couple I haven't seen.
You're breaking up.
Can you hear me? His casting,
at least for me,
is impeccable.
You're breaking up. You're pinging.
Oh,
Yeah.
No, it's
see
you,
it.
Rory. It's you, Rory.
It's just me.
The call is
Oh.
coming from inside the house, Rory.
There was, I guess I said everything I wanted to say about it. Again, it's an amazing film. I think they went linear, and he hated it. And somebody else said, "Well, let's go nonlinear and let's do it this way and shuffle these around," and then it worked. It was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So go figure. So I was saying before, he's the reason that John Travolta became an A-lister again. He's the reason that Samuel L. Jackson became famous. Really, because I mean, let's face it. What did Samuel L. Jackson do before Pulp Fiction? He had work, true. But it wasn't anything until Pulp Fiction. It wasn't anything. I mean, it wasn't an A-lister.
Well, this is also Christoph Waltz, which we'll be getting to Christoph. But his career also.
Christoph Waltz famous, yeah.
Yeah. Well, there were several people that their careers kind of came back because of.
They owe them to Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah, absolutely.
Robert Forster. Pam Grier. I mean, all of a sudden, boom! They're like, "Oh, yeah, we remember them."
Yeah, talking about Pam Grier, it's like Pam Grier is very similar to John Travolta. I mean, their careers were kind of definitely on a decline, and then I mean,
hiatus.
type A or top A. I forget what it's called. A-listers.
A-listers, yeah.
But he really, I mean, his words inside their mouths, like, I can't even imagine somebody else playing Samuel L. Jackson's roles, any of his Tarantino roles. Like, they're brilliant for him.
No, yeah. All right, so what's your number two, Elana?
What is my number two? Oh, my number two is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
I had a feeling it was going to be. I thought that was going to be your number one.
This movie.
And did you see it,
I learned quite a few things about this movie, and that was mostly that I'm old. And the reason why I learned that I'm old is because I was basically, as soon as I saw the movie was hitting a certain date, and as soon as the creepy man appears in the frame, like, I knew exactly from the second, I knew where we were going. Even though we go to, Rick Dalton and we talk about what's happening with him. And I was trying to figure out, like, is it just because I know so much about crime that I know? But I vividly remember, the Manson family murders, and I guess I was born 5 years later. So, I mean, the country was still, reeling from it. But I saw on Reddit somebody, like, all these people are like, who's that creepy guy wandering around? And I'm like, oh my God, I feel so old, because I just automatically knew. And when I saw the girls running through the streets, like, I knew exactly who they were. And Quentin Tarantino, for some reason, says it's not about the Manson murders, and I don't really understand that, but I guess in kind of a fairy tale way. So he has two movies that are fairy tales, and they're actually called Once Upon a Time movies. And it's beautiful. I mean, it was just so fun and such a fresh take on something that, you know, if you're into true crime, you know, like the back of your hand, you know, every single thing. And especially, as I said, if you were raised when I was raised, years, then you know everything that happened. Is very, it was just such an interesting take. And the other thing that I want, I guess, to address quickly is the violence. The violence is not only beautiful, but I was trying to figure out, and I think, okay, Rory might know of one. Like, I feel like he's gonna tell me one that I missed. I feel like in all of the Tarantino movies, except for I have not seen The Hateful Eight. It's the only one I haven't seen.
But the violence is so beautiful.
It's so beautiful. Maybe I'll go back and watch it.
Yeah.
It's the bad guys that they're comeuppance. You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to think of somebody who's actually a good guy, right? Like,
yeah,
like Jules, right? Jules ends up walking away, and Vince is shot on the toilet, like, in the most immediate way possible. So I was like cheering. Oh, well, the spoilers everywhere. Watch this movie and then listen to this part. The end is just like, yeah, you go. And then they all just chill and drink margaritas. And it was just, it's beautiful. It was very much a fairy tale. And it was really a lot of fun.
I think that's why I like Pulp Fiction so well, is because there were characters you were rooting for. And there were other characters that, like you said, got snuffed that you were like, oh, wait a minute. You know, there were there were some surprises. Try to say that 5 times fast. Whereas in other films of Quentin Tarantino's, where the violence may be beautiful, you know, everybody dies.
No,
it's just like the good people die, the bad people die. Well, they're not the good people. They're all bad people and they all die.
The more you say that, like, those are the only 2 movies that I hadn't seen before, were The Hateful Eight and Jackie Brown. And I had to do my continuing legal education class. Like, I had to deal with myself. You can only be on the show tonight if you do X classes. And I am really happy that I made that deal with myself.
I think you'll like The Hateful Eight. I really do. Just based on what you've said, I think you'll like it.
Well, the thing about The Hateful Eight, and I know we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves.
I was expecting something else, and I was pissed off. I got something I wasn't expecting.
See, I've learned.
Come on. That's why I wasn't going to watch it. I never have liked Westerns. Like, I was raised on Dirty Harry, but I wasn't raised on, like, early, like, the Western Clint Eastwood. It was the Make My Day, you know, Clint Eastwood.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you this. The Hateful Eight is, even though it's a Western, but it's really more of almost like a closed room detective story. There's actually, it's a mystery. And that's what makes it unique. I mean, and it's a remake of
Reservoir Dogs.
I was thinking as you were saying that, Manny, before Rory said that, that's exactly what I was thinking of. I was like, it's a more grown-up Reservoir Dogs.
It's a Western Reservoir Dogs, because it basically takes place all in one location, and there's a mystery, and you know, but it's still, the characters are still fascinating. You know,
yes, they are. The characters were engaging. So
really, watch it for the characters and the dialogue.
Maybe we'll watch it. We're gonna want to watch it before. I'm so glad I missed it, but now
it's definitely worth a watch. But
it is worth a watch.
Plan something happy afterwards.
It's a bit dark. It's probably one of his darkest movies. But okay.
And if you love Kurt Russell, don't watch it.
I like seeing him in movies, but I never have like some kind of attachment. You know, there are some people who like come on the screen. You know, I think that's also, for some reason, Uma Thurman, she just gets me. Like, I think that's also why Kill Bill is just, if it was somebody else, maybe I wouldn't be as connected. I don't know what it is about her. I just.
I feel the same way.
So Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, that's my number 4, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah, there are 2 films of his where he basically rewrites history because he
Yeah.
can. He's the director,
The Once
and
Upon a Time
and
movies. Yeah.
he relishes in it. He takes such delight in again turning these stories
could you
into
not?
ultra-violent Quentin Tarantino fairy tales, like you said.
Yeah.
The payoff
and
is so
again,
big.
at first I hated it in Inglourious Basterds. Inglourious Basterds is my number 2.
I was going to ask, what's your number 2? Yeah.
But you gotta love Hitler getting machine gunned in the face.
That movie, and it's funny because that particular one is super personal to me.
Yeah.
And that one, I actually put it at, honestly, I was like, Kill Bill's number 1 and all the other ones are just in my top 5. Like, I didn't even know. But I rated that one 4.
Yeah.
That was my 4th.
Yeah, so we flipped it.
But I mean, both times he does these Once Upon a Time movies, the payoff is huge. But yeah, oh my God. Like, the whole bunch of Jews just took down, like, the whole Nazi regime. I probably shouldn't say more than that.
Well, no, I mean that's what it is. That's
Quite
again the
fairy tale for
performances
me.
by Christoph Waltz, who is phenomenal in it. He's so nasty, and and the other end of the fulcrum, with Aldo Ray, who's an actual name of an actor that used to do a lot of war movies, played by Brad Pitt. He's just wonderful. He's fantastic. And but he's only in the film for just a few minutes. I mean, most of this stuff is done by Waltz and a bunch of other people that waltz in and out. And again, it's now one of my favorite war movies. And again, you get to see Hitler machine gun in the face, which you gotta love.
Yeah, you do.
That was such a shock. I was so not expecting that when I first saw it. I saw it in the theater. When I was like, "Oh my God!"
I wasn't gonna watch it.
He's rewriting history, and I love it.
Yeah.
It was definitely.
And the end of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the same thing. I mean, he rewrote history.
Yeah.
And I loved it.
Yeah. I'm on board.
So,
I am on
and
board.
Brad Pitt, fantastic performance in that one too.
Pitt, yeah. And that's one thing we didn't mention is, well, like a lot of directors, there's certain people that keep coming back.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about Samuel L. Jackson in a lot of his movies, Tim Roth, Uma Thurman, there's Michael Madsen. Just a regular cast that he always kind of comes back to. Yeah.
I don't think I was as big a Brad Pitt fan as I am. Like, there's something that Tarantino is able to get from him that makes me really enjoy his performances. That, Brad Pitt is not my favorite actor. Like, he doesn't make or break a movie for me, but especially Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
I think it's because you can tell that Brad Pitt is enjoying playing his characters so much.
Yeah.
I think that's what we pick up on.
I think you're right. That was a big thing with Lynch too. See, that is a very perfect parallel. The two of them, they have these people and everybody wants to work with them, all the A-listers, because they're doing something so different. And yeah, Brad Pitt, as Cliff Booth, he just relishes every word. And I've never been that big a fan of Brad Pitt.
And DiCaprio too. I think you can tell DiCaprio, especially in Django Unchained. You could tell he's really enjoying playing his character.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well,
so much so they actually cut his hand in one scene when he broke an
wine glass.
Wine glass.
Yeah, he smashed it down. Yeah, and
they
were going to cut, and he's like, "Nope," and they kept it in the movie. Yeah. I mean, that's committing to the bit.
Really good too.
That's real blood there.
And Leonardo DiCaprio, the stunt man actor, like their chemistry was just so dead on.
Yeah. And you know, that's another thing is Tarantino is really good at capturing, I guess you call it male bonding. You know, I mean, you really feel
Yeah.
like the relationship between Jules and Vincent in Pulp Fiction. You know, it feels like a real relationship, like a real friendship.
Yeah.
You know, even though it threatens to go sour after they shoot Marvin in the face, but I love that
It's such
scene
a
where
great scene, though. Oh my god.
yeah,
Quentin Tarantino running out and putting like, I haven't
yeah,
seen it for a long time, but that's
I love the
great.
scene where they're washing their just a simple
He like goes to slow
washing of the
down
hands.
and
Yeah,
yeah.
so, dude, I washed my hands. I saw you getting wet. You know, I wash my hands too. You know, my towel don't look like a maxi pad. It's just
That's such a
great.
good
You know,
scene.
just that little tension, you know, that happens sometimes between you know partners, between friends,
Who happen to be hitmen.
who just happen to be hitmen, exactly, and these
Yeah.
esoteric you know conversations they have about bacon, of all things, and so on.
Well,
You
as I
know,
said, like that's at the time, that's the conversation I was we were having with like me and my friends. This,
talking about bacon.
yeah, we did actually spend a lot of time talking about bacon because I am raised Orthodox. So.
Oh, well,
Yeah. So it's I mean, we would actually have conversations, and all my friends, well, a lot of them were language nerds, so it was, like it wasn't, uncommon for us to actually be like, well, why is it called this and not that, because we were raised multilingual, well, mostly bilingual,
yeah.
and so yeah, lots of pork conversations. It's just, hey, I want to sit down with them and talk to them as long as I don't get dead like Marvin.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll just say my number two is Kill
We're
Bill.
still on number two.
We're
Okay,
still on number two.
so yeah.
So my number two is Kill Bill, especially Volume 1. The second one, it's a bit of a letdown. I thought the climax finale. I mean, you were expecting this knockdown, drag out. You know, that's what it felt like it was building up to, and now she just taps him on the shoulder a few times or on the chest a few times, and he dies. It's like, really?
Well, from my understanding, it really was just like, oh, thanks, Quentin Tarantino, for your movie. This one's going to be released here, and one's going to be released here. Like, he was like, okay, cool, but not thrilled, of course. I wonder if they're actually
that might have been the studio.
A third one. Yeah. I would go crazy.
Yeah. Well,
studios don't like 3-hour movies and 3.5-hour movies because they can't show them as much in a day, make as much money. So that might have been the studio pressure.
Well, and the studio was the Weinstein company.
Yeah.
So that was a little rough. Yeah. Like that was a little rough watching it and knowing like it didn't mean anything when I actually saw the movie, and it was like, maybe I shouldn't watch this movie. No, I just won't think about it.
Yeah. Well, at the time, I didn't know anything about all that. I just went to see the movie. Actually, it's a funny story. There's a website that finds and publishes. You can find movie scripts on there, and so I was trolling it, and I saw this Kill Bill by Quentin Tarantino, and so I said, oh, I gotta read this. And this is even before the movie came out, and it has the entire movie. Now there's a lot of changes that happened, between then and when the actual movie came out, but it got me excited. It didn't really spoil anything. And I thought, oh, I have to see this movie. This movie has to come out like now. and yeah, I mean, so seeing the actual written word and then seeing how he actually filmed it
Yeah,
was interesting, and I
Was
bought.
it one script or was it
that's
the script
It
very
for
was
Kill
one.
Bill?
No, it was one entire.
one
No, it was
script.
the whole thing.
Yeah. See, that
Was
tells you the
all of
studio
his.
did that.
Yeah, they
They
cut
brought
it
There's
in
in
no
half.
studio.
doubt that the studio did it. Like at the
Yeah.
time of its release, I remember vividly being very upset. I can't remember, but there were a lot of Shakespeare movies at that time. I think it was at that time that all the Kenneth Branagh movies.
Oh
So I
yeah.
was very angry because people, including myself, we were sitting there watching 4 or 5 hour like Hamlets and Othellos and whatever, and those were
Yeah.
not underground. It was Kenneth Branagh and Emma Thompson who were, you know, pretty popular at the time. So
Yeah.
you think I can't sit and all
But
of
see,
his
there's that.
movies are about
But
3 hours. So it's
yeah, but
like
that's the
totally the
difference.
studio.
But
See,
see, there's a difference
Branagh had
between.
he fought for it, is what it
He
was.
has some clout. Yeah, but
Come on, it's
I think a
Shakespeare.
lot of it
Shakespeare didn't
too.
have it in two parts.
But
Exactly.
well, of course, and he
But I think
also
it's the
does have
American
clout,
system that does that.
but
Yeah.
it very much made me angry. Like
Yeah.
that we were actually like right now, if you went to a movie theater, you're probably not going to go sit there for 4 hours and watch Hamlet. Like that's probably not something people are going to do right now. But at the time, they did that, and I
Right.
just
Yeah.
feel like this movie really.
Titanic, two,
Thank
3.5
you.
hours.
I feel like
Yeah.
it suffers. Like I want to see it as one movie. I feel like it
Yeah.
suffers. And at the time, of course, I was very upset that I had to wait a year. It was like a year at the time, you know, it was like the
Yeah.
early 2000s. So you're waiting a long time.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Like Rory said, it's a lot of studio and movie theaters. They don't like 2-hour movies, 4-hour movies because
No.
again they don't have as many showings. But I got to talk about Uma Thurman. Uma Thurman is the bomb in that movie, even more than she was in Pulp Fiction and even in
Yes.
some of the other movies. You know, her performance as the bride was just so on point, and the whole thing was really Tarantino's homage to Hong Kong cinema.
Mhm.
You know, which is why he had like Sonny Chiba, and you know, because
Well,
that's one
Chiba
of his
was
favorite
Japanese sword films,
or
but
Japanese, yeah.
but yes,
Uh,
there is a nod to that, and there is a nod to Hong
to
Kong
both,
style.
to the Hong Kong
Right.
films as
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
The character, the master with the long beard, you know, who also is the same guy that plays the head of the Crazy 88. It's the
Right,
same
yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all Hong Kong cinema.
Right.
And but the Sonny Shiba, the sword part, you know,
Yeah.
and
Hattori
Go-Go,
Hanzo.
that's all Japanese.
That's Japanese. Yeah. Yeah. So it's a little
So
bit
he was
about
actually given a nod to both at that time. And
in Kurosawa, I guess.
this is my number 3. This is my number 3 on my list. And
Okay.
yeah, I'm with you. And again, even cast David Carradine from Kung Fu.
From Kung Fu.
Right.
Exactly.
And by the way, Carradine basically stole that from Bruce Lee. They was it? I want to say Fox was the one that produced Kung Fu, which
Universal,
was
I think.
it was originally written. The whole concept was originally written by Bruce Lee, and he was hoping to play the main character himself. And they just kind of stole it from him, and produced it. And they had David Carradine, who was not even Asian, play Kane in those.
Yeah.
But the Uma and Tarantino fell out of favor with each other because of Kill Bill, because there was a scene where she was supposed to drive a car, and she's not. I'm not a really good driver, and he's like, "Oh no, it's not no problem. It's just a quick shot, and nothing will happen." And of course, she gets in a car accident, and I think she broke a leg.
Oh my God.
She broke something and was out of commission for a couple of months.
Yeah.
And I mean, after the movie wrapped, they didn't speak for the longest time, because she was very upset with him about that. That he took that.
I'm trying to think if she was in something after that. I can't remember. No, I don't think so.
They're speaking again. They're on speaking terms again. But that happened after The Hateful Eight, which was his last film to date. So that was what, 2018.
Yeah.
And that was the last film with the Weinstein Company.
Oh, I
He
didn't.
said-
No, actually,
Yeah. No, I think the last
Once Upon a
one,
Time in Hollywood is this last
right,
film.
that was July
Oh, that's
27,
right. That's right. I'm sorry.
2019.
That's his
That is supposed to be, they're calling it the 9th film because
Right.
Tarantino said he's making 10,
Mhm.
which is
Yeah.
why I don't know that there's going to be a third Kill Bill. It might just have been like a fan article or something.
Yeah,
that's
want-
not
yeah,
actually,
yeah.
yeah.
I wanted to point out too, for the audience that doesn't know, that the Kill Bill was based on a comic book series called The Bride, and you guys were mentioning The Bride and
Right.
the characters, The Bride, and again, yeah, she is left for dead, and her husband is killed, and she was in a coma. She was supposed to give
She
birth
was
to a
also
daughter,
pregnant.
and that disappeared. Yeah, she was pregnant, and
Mhm.
the daughter disappeared when she woke up from the coma, and that's part of the film.
Yeah.
But that's where it all came from.
Mhm.
So that story is concluded. So I don't know how they're going to do a part 3, but
Yeah.
hey, you never know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember where I saw it.
Yeah. Oh, and it's Vivica Fox who plays the I forget what her code name was, Mountain Snake or something. I should have been motherfucking Black Mamba. Oh, sorry.
Oops.
Oops.
This is not for kitties. This is not for the kids,
Just
folks.
not for
Sorry.
kitties. Yeah.
There
Yeah,
it
there you
is.
go. Thank
Thank you.
you.
Always have that ready in case, Manny slips.
In case I
Usually it's
slip.
me. Usually I'm the one who slips.
I know. Can't
So
help
that's
it.
my number 3.
Okay.
What was your number 3, guys?
Mine was
Elana?
Pulp Fiction.
Pulp Fiction. Okay.
I mean,
And Manny?
as I said, it was great.
It's
It
great.
was really hard. I mean, it's so hard.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
there's a bunch of them that they're just clearly the top 5.
Yeah, exactly. Rory mentioned the soundtrack. I bought it on cassette back in the day, and I used to play it at work, but I always had to skip the first part because it's the
the talking.
Honey Bunny. She's like,
Oh,
I'm gonna execute every last.
Everybody, you motherfucker. Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
that.
So I was like, oh shit, I gotta
That's
skip
right.
this
They
part.
put lines from the movie before each track. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah, I'm like,
yeah, I love that part too. Like the non-linear, like there's something about it though that he really guides you very well through the non-linear movie. Like there's some directors and you're following them, but it's like you're kind of in a maze. But Tarantino, he almost like takes your hand through the maze because you understand what's it's weird because see,
take my
I say
hand,
that.
follow me.
I say that, but then
I don't wanna.
people
You're
were
creepy.
saying explain Once Upon a Time in Hollywood to me, and I was like, am I really old? Like, how did I know immediately what everything was and what it was about?
Again, it's because you're into true crime, not because you're old. You just know a lot about true crime.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
We watched the news growing up a lot and stuff. Maybe that's
Same here.
why. Maybe because I've seen 10 million Manson movies already. Maybe because
Helter Skelter.
I know what people look like when they're, I don't know,
are...
dawdling or something. I don't know.
Chris Arndt.
What are you doing?
Yeah, I don't know. With my X-ray, true crime lawyerness, I can tell that creepy guy is Manson.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
He's after Sharon Stone.
Yeah. Well, we keep hearing Charlie. They keep mentioning Charlie throughout the movie. They never say the last name, but if you know, you know. That kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I think I would think maybe I knew immediately and maybe not. That's not fair. But to not know, like, they go to the rant, like, yeah. I mean, I don't know. But then I was thinking, like, 5 years after the Tate murders, I was born. So, like, that's very different. Like, I guess I just didn't think of that part that when I was a kid, that was still very much.
Yeah, I guess I was 5 years old when that happened.
Yeah,
Wow.
so I mean, we were exposed to it. If you watch the news, you could not be exposed to it.
But yeah, again,
yeah.
like Manny said, you know, we grew up with Helter Skelter in the 70s and other interpretations of Charlie Manson, and we saw Charlie Manson on TV quite a bit, you know, doing weird stuff here and there
and
and
that's
everywhere.
what I was thinking. Like,
So no, it's
I
not that you're
think
old;
if
you're just into
a
true
certain
crime.
age, I think it just makes sense, you know.
Like you said, you weren't even born then.
Well, I was born in 74, so
yeah,
I
you were
mean,
just a glimmer. You weren't even a glimmer in your parents' eyes at the time.
no,
I actually
and
visited
wasn't.
Sharon Tate's grave.
But at the same time, it followed us definitely through the 80s, and it followed us definitely through the 90s even. I mean,
yeah, because Manson was alive and again was in the news from time to time, you know.
oh yeah,
Oh, he's got a girlfriend now, you know. Oh, you know, they're going to get married while he's still in prison. He's never going to get out, blah 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 blah, you know.
There's actually
and then he died.
This stuff is being released now about Manson. I don't know if you guys are aware of that. So I mean, I guess that also made me think about it because I saw all of the stuff that was
just like David Berkowitz, you know, we saw David Berkowitz from time to time, you know.
I'm having a tough time with the like with the fact that the 60s or the 70s seem so close and yet they're so far away.
Just let it go, Renee. Alana, just let it go, Alana.
Oh my God, I know.
Oh, the 70s.
Renee and I sometimes mind blend. I don't know where she is, but
she's behind the scenes.
I'm right here. I'm mind blending. You're doing such a great job for both of us. I'm serious. You are representing. You are representing.
Too? Like there's this like overwhelming thing. It's like, oh my God, that was 50 years ago or 40 years ago or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Okay,
so my number three.
What was your number three? Yeah, what was your number three, Manny?
My number three is
we're at 52 minutes. What's your number three?
My number three is Jackie Brown.
Yeah.
Which we mentioned before. Now, Jackie Brown, coming after Pulp Fiction, didn't do as well, you know, because everybody was expecting another Pulp Fiction, and then he turns around and just does this really, you know, nice Leonard Nimoy, Elmo Leonard adaptation, which is why Michael Keaton is in that.
Also Pittsburgh.
And
yes, Quentin Tarantino is all about Pittsburgh.
Yep.
Yeah, but although no, it takes place in Hollywood, or California, but the movie does anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Michael Keaton's from Pittsburgh.
Oh, yeah. Well, what I was going to say is Michael Keaton's character in that movie is also the same character that he plays in Get Shorty, because they're both Elmer Leonard, based on Elmer Leonard's book. So they just cast the same guy, which I thought was a nice little kind of link there. But yeah, like I said, it brought back Pam Grier, Robert Forster. It's the only movie that Robert De Niro ever made with Tarantino for whatever reason.
I was going to mention that. You know, he usually uses the same people, but he's never called De Niro back. I wonder if there was just kind of a clash of personalities or something on set, or
I don't know, or maybe this just wasn't.
De Niro's got the best scene in the movie. The girl is annoying him and he kills her.
Yeah, and Bridget Fonda too. Bridget Fonda. That was the only movie that she ever made.
Yeah, I love Bridget Fonda.
She's so annoying that you actually don't mind that he kills her.
Yeah,
it's funny.
And you know, and that's the other thing, is that there's not that over the top violence in that movie. I mean, people get killed, but really, who's the only two people who get killed? It's the kid at the beginning. It's Chris Tucker at the beginning. He gets shot in the trunk, and you see it from far off. And Melanie, Bridget Fonda's character.
You kind of do want her to get shot. You're like,
yeah, it's like, oh my God. And in fact, that it's like, you shot her. You could have just hit her. No, you shot her.
No.
Like, yeah, well, she was just annoying me at the time.
It was bugging me.
Just kept bugging me.
It was bugging me. She was bugging me.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, Samuel L.
bit.
Jackson
bit.
is so good in that movie. It's like he's
Yeah.
not even acting. It's just,
Yeah, I
like
mean
he
that's
just like
probably one of
floats around
his.
in the movie.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
just so
he
great.
was scary in that movie. He was probably he was scarier than Jules
Yeah,
was.
than usual. Absolutely.
Uh,
Well,
Psychotic,
he's pretty scary in Pulp Fiction, you know?
yeah, he is, especially when he breaks out with the
Bible verses
the Bible
and
verse and
such.
everything.
Those kind
And
of,
And
you
I
will
will
know that I am the
God.
Lord. Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
it's kind of scary.
Yeah. Say what again? Say what again? So yeah, but
I
anyway,
love Pam Grier.
but Pam Grier was so awesome.
Yeah.
And again, it's that callback to those. To the
Unfortunately,
Black
she followed up with Ghosts of Mars. After that,
Yeah.
it's like, oh man, you were on your way back and you had to do that.
Aw.
Not one of the best of John
Carpenter.
Carpenter's movies, but but anyway,
I guess so. The one thing I thought was kind of interesting about. Oh wait, it's not my turn. Sorry.
no, go ahead. No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
Wait a minute. We got
We
through
don't-
3, right? We're ready
Yeah,
for
this
number
is-
4?
Yeah. This is our
Yes.
number 4.
Okay, so Alana, what's your number 4? I think you already
Inglourious
said it, but
Basterds.
Inglorious Bastards. Okay.
Yes.
Glorious
Which I
Bastards.
think I already talked a
Okay.
lot about.
Which I'll just say is my number 4 as well. And
Awesome.
now the thing I want to mention is that Inglourious Bastards is actually a remake of a movie from the 70s called Inglourious Bastards that starred Jim Brown.
Interesting.
Now it's an Italian
Did not know that.
production. But yeah. And I remember reading
Did they machine gun Hitler in the face?
no,
Not
no,
as
but
good.
no, it was more. Well,
Yeah.
what Tarantino said about that was that he wanted to make a movie. When he was talking about, well, what's your next movie? He said, well, I'm doing this movie because I love those what he calls like squad mission movies where you get a bunch of guys and they go off on a mission and you don't know if who's going to get killed, like the Dirty Dozen, like Inglorious.
Right.
Actually, Inglorious Bastards was basically a ripoff of the Dirty Dozen. It was a sort of an Italian ripoff of it, and then Tarantino said, "Well, I'm going to make my own version of that, and have this squad." But he went in his own direction and wound up machine gunning Hitler in the face at the end of it. So,
And Hitler in the face.
but
I could just see him just giggling his ass off, describing that to everybody, at the time.
Exactly.
Hey, we're gonna machine gun Hitler.
But what's also interesting is that there's a theory, and it seems to be borne out, that all his movies are interlinked. That there's characters that are like descendants and ancestors of other characters throughout the movie, but also at the end of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, during that whole scene, well, there's a movie within a movie where DiCaprio's character, where Rick winds up
Rick
using
Dalton.
a blowtorch, not a blowtorch, a flamethrower, and murders all the Nazis. Well, that's the exact same scene from Inglourious Bastards, and the fact that he winds up keeping the flamethrower. Yeah, but the exact same thing. So there's that again. It's Tarantino tying all his movies together, and it's very self-referential, obviously. Not only that, but you have the reference to The Great Escape, where he was where Dalton was supposed to play the Steve McQueen character, who is played in the movie by Damian Lewis. There's a scene where Damian Lewis plays Steve McQueen in that party scene. So it's all like he just interconnects everything so beautifully. But anyway, I just wanted to mention that about Inglourious Basterds, that it is a remake. Yeah. And if you get a chance to see the original, it's a fun, just a little action movie. Nothing too serious about it. But anyway, it's.
I think and
you also have another director in that, Eli Roth, playing a character in Inglourious Basterds as well. he likes to do that. Sometimes have other directors come in. But anyway, so that's my take on that.
Can I make a prediction?
Sure.
Everybody's number, because we haven't talked about it. Everybody's number 5 is Django Unchained.
No,
Okay,
you would be wrong,
No.
sir.
that made your honorable mention list.
It
That's
might
my
well
number
mention
5.
this.
No,
Okay.
it's
My number
it's
5.
not my anything.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, so I don't like Westerns. So I think some of
Okay.
it is just a personal thing, right? Because he's paying homage to different kinds of movies. So you're going to like what's so interesting about Tarantino, and I think you had said that, Rory, is that there are certain movies that you're going to like and certain movies you're not going to like. And so, I don't like Westerns, but I saw it and I'm glad I saw it. I just wanted to go back for a second because we were talking about people being interlinked.
Mhm.
We just totally skipped over the what's in the briefcase discussion.
Oh yeah.
Because when you guys saw Pulp Fiction first, but when you watch
In Gum Fiction, it was a golden gun.
first, then there's a diamond heist, right? And the diamonds are missing. So one of the theories is that the diamonds appear, they're in that briefcase.
Okay.
So people like, if you watch, I don't know about them all in order, but I guess different kinds in order. Yes, Rory.
I'm going to tear apart your theory, unfortunately, because a couple of reasons. One, everybody refers to it as an item, one thing. Is that what I think it is? And
Somebody says it's his soul,
and it's obviously it's gold. Whatever it is, it's gold because it's the reflection on everybody when they open that case. The reflection is like a yellow reflection.
It is yellow.
So obviously it's something gold, but we'll never know what it is.
Well, so it's interesting,
and that was his idea. I mean,
because
I don't want to show it.
They say Quentin Tarantino says there's nothing in it, and there's never going to be anything, and there was nothing ever. But it's just kind of interesting that it occurred to me that if you saw Pulp Fiction first and you didn't see Reservoir Dogs, then you wouldn't have, followed some of the fan theories are kind of fun. And that's one of the fan theories that I always thought was kind of fun.
Is it the diamonds from the diamond heist?
The diamonds kind of appear from there, and then something else, happens, and maybe Tim Roth is actually Mr. I forgot which Mr. he is, and now he's with Honey Bunny. Like, everybody like has their own theories.
I gotta pee.
I think
Amanda Plummer. Let's give her a little nod.
Amanda Plummer, yeah.
She was wonderful.
So great.
Yeah.
So
I mean, there's all Roseanne Arquette with all. Is she the one with all the shit in her face? No, that's my wife.
Patricia Arquette?
Patricia Arquette. No, Roseanne.
I can't
Roseanne
remember
Roseanne
which
Arquette.
one it is.
Arquette.
Yeah.
It's Roseanne Arquette. Yeah.
Roseanne Arquette. Yeah.
Yeah.
She had just done the Madonna thing. Who's that girl or something like
Who's
that?
that girl? Yeah.
Oh,
She was still writing.
Oh,
on
Desperately
that.
Seeking
Susan.
That's right.
Right. Yeah.
Who's that girl was another thing.
Another terrible Madonna movie, but
Madonna.
The other thing I really love watching about these movies is definitely an age thing. Is like when I go back to these movies, because I have already agreed to enter this world that they've created for me. That world includes the context for me personally of that world. So I'm watching Reservoir Dogs or Pulp Fiction or whatever. And yeah, I of course wore out the Pulp Fiction CD. I mean, that is probably one of the best soundtracks. And it's so many, pulls from so many different people. And talking about bringing people back, I mean, on his soundtracks, there's so many people that he brought back,
Watching Captain Kangaroo.
Loves Captain Kangaroo.
And you were always doing that when you were singing along. You were doing that little nod on.
Yeah.
So what was your number 5?
Okay, so my number five is Jackie Brown.
Okay.
But again, I kind of feel like it's not number five. I feel like it's somewhere in the between 2 and 5. Like, I feel like all the movies are between 2 and 5, except for Kill Bill.
We've been doing a lot of bouncing around.
And the ones I wasn't that big a fan of. But yeah, I love Pam Grier. I love the control she has. I think about how people might think Tarantino is a misogynist, but Pam Grier is like, Jackie Brown is in charge and she's got everything figured out. And the weirdest thing happened to me is I couldn't follow it for a little bit. Like there were too many people doing too many things at once, and that never happens to me. So I give it extra points for that. But it was so fun, and always happy to see Michael Keaton, of course. It was a pretty simple movie compared to his other movies, which also made me feel like, why am I not following something? But I think that's kind of the point, maybe. That's like Melanie gets shot because she's creating all this chaotic noise, and somebody else, is there's chaos pretty much throughout the movie. And yeah, it's a great movie. It's somewhere between 2 and 5.
Okay.
And Manny, you're number 5?
Mine is Reservoir Dogs. I had to bring it back to the original. This one, it feels almost like a stage play, And again, I know it's a budgetary thing, but it's so well, but it's still so well staged that you don't even care. These characters are so well drawn and so well written. And of course, the casting is just impeccable. Harvey Keitel, Tim Roth, Steve Buscemi, Lawrence Tierney as the boss, the gravelly-faced boss. Right from the beginning. And they think about Tarantino is he grabs you right from the beginning with dialogue. Not a big action scene, not a big, as like other directors. He grabs you with dialogue. They're talking about Madonna, and what like a virgin means, and then somebody else is talking about some Asian girl, and then they go on about who's tipping and who doesn't. Steve Buscemi's character doesn't believe in tipping, and so they get that whole conversation going, and then you find out that these guys are about to rob a bank or a jewelry store, and get a diamond exchange or whatever, and then how horribly all that goes wrong, but it's not even about that. That's the MacGuffin of the story, right? The real story is about who's the rat, and of course then you find out who it is and everything that happens there. And again, you don't get a linear story. You get flashbacks to, now that you find out who the rat is, well, then you find out how he got there, right? And then you find out how Harvey Keitel's character got there, and Michael Madsen. And of course, there's that scene, the classic scene where he cuts the guy's ear off, the cop's ear off, to Stuck in the Middle with You, which I can never hear that song again without thinking of that scene. And that's
without thinking of torture.
Without thinking of torture, exactly.
Without thinking of Michael Madsen torturing.
Yeah, and again, that probably made Michael Madsen's career right there.
Yeah.
And of course, Robert Rodriguez later on reunited them in Sin City. He and Bruce Willis. And we're talking about Rodriguez on another show, but yeah, to me, it's just such a cool character study of these people who are criminals. And I always wondered, can you make a movie about criminals where you actually sympathize with these guys? And Tarantino did it. They're not very good people, and yet you still sympathize. Even when you find out that Tim Roth has basically betrayed everybody, you still sympathize with him.
Mm.
You know, and of course the whole ending, the whole Mexican standoff at the end, and what happens there. It's so. It's like, again, Tarantino just takes you. You talk about taking you by the hand. It's like, yeah, let me put you into this world where anything could happen, and yeah, nobody comes out of this alive. And it's like, okay, it's a very French existentialist kind of deal, but it's just such, again, so well thought out and such a good movie. And you think, well, how can he beat this? And of course he does with Pulp Fiction. It's just like, yeah, he just takes that to another level. But anyway, so yeah, I had to make it number 5. I just had to make it my number 5 movie. And that's not to diss any other movies. It's just those are just the ones that I feel like where he's at his best.
I wanted to mention. I just looked it up. You were saying that there's like heist movies where you don't really connect with. I mean, how can you connect with these kind of people?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a movie called Disorganized Crime, which I really love, with Fred Gwynn.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of who else was in there. Ruben Blades, I think, was in it. Corbin Burnson, Ed O'Neill, Lou Diamond Phillips, Daniel Roebuck. It had a really good cast.
Wow.
And it's about a heist in this little, these criminals come together for this heist in a really small town. And the guy that's supposed to head the heist, the guy that's planned it all, he gets picked up by the police, the local police, and put in jail. And they have to do the heist without him.
Oh my goodness.
And they all figure out, okay, well, this is my job because this is what I do in heists and stuff. And then the nightmare of trying to pull this heist off.
What year is that from?
Without him. Give me a second. 1989.
So that's very interesting because
the year
that's
of
3
Batman.
years before Reservoir Dogs.
And it was one of Gwynn's last movies. He did a couple of other things after that, but he passed away shortly thereafter. But it was right after My Cousin Vinny, so he was riding high on playing the judge in My
I'm
Cousin
sure
Vinny.
Tarantino must have been aware.
And
of it.
yeah, I bet
Probably,
Tarantino watched the film because
Yeah. Well, there's another movie that I mentioned when we were talking about Stanley Kubrick that he did called The Killing, about planning of a heist.
I read about that.
with
Yes.
Sterling Hayden. That I felt, I watched that movie and I thought Tarantino could have made this movie, because again, it's that same kind of non-linear, and he might remake it. Yeah, I mean, he could remake it if he wanted to.
They're kind of cheated. And
but-
my honorable mention is not exactly an honorable mention. It's without this movie, we couldn't have all the other movies. So it is my, big deal movie, which of course is Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah.
I was, as I said, a theater major. And so it's a very big movie for people studying theater. Because there is a tendency to do these one-room plays, but to make them more complicated when you do them as movies. And sometimes they really should just be people sitting in a room and talking, even if it's on film. And so I think Tarantino was definitely part of that discussion, and definitely he happened to do that at a time when other films, unfortunately, I think the one that you're discussing, Rory, might not have been as well advertised, because
it didn't do well at the box
movie.
office. I remember that. I think I was working. No, I wasn't working in a theater, but I remember that. Yeah, it didn't do well at the box office because I didn't have the right stars, I guess.
Right. So he was kind of seen as the person
Corbin Burnson was like the big star
to show how something can be a play and can work, in a room. And yeah, it's interesting because I didn't think about it until, we've had this discussion, but Tarantino definitely reminds me of Mamet in so many different ways.
Yeah.
So my number 5 was Django Unchained.
Yeah, tell us about it.
Christoph Waltz didn't want to do it. He had to be talked into doing it by Tarantino. Again, it's DiCaprio jumping into the Tarantino world, and Jamie Foxx surprisingly cast as Django, who is usually cast. Django is a character from Italian spaghetti westerns.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, it was like Franco Nero, and there was I can't remember if Terrence Hill did it in one. There was like a couple of different guys played Django in the 60s and early 70s.
Right.
So that was a big surprise. And again, they threw in the whole Civil War thing, post Civil War, and and of course you get your Samuel L. Jackson character, and a lot of surprises. And again, DiCaprio's performance is off the chain. Samuel L. Jackson off the chain, having a great time playing his character, obviously, and Christoph Waltz. And again, there's surprises. And I don't know why Jamie Foxx never worked with Tarantino again. He's a great actor and he's a respected actor, amazing, that this guy went from, In Living Color, the TV show, the sketch comedy show, to,
yeah, I remember,
a dramatic actor career, doing dramatic roles and stuff. And here he is playing, a cowboy in a Western, and it works. Yeah. So I had to put it in the top 5. Jackie Brown, and that one was kind of flipping back and forth between them in the top 5. The rest of them, they're dishonorable mentions. As you were saying
I'm
earlier.
Trying to think, are there any big ones that we didn't discuss?
Hateful Eight, Reservoir Dogs, Death Proof Grindhouse. We have not talked about,
I saw that.
And for good reason. It's just not up to his usual standards.
Yeah.
And again, he's just one part of that. It was Rodriguez. Actually, the best part of that is Planet Terror, which is Rodriguez. And he's in that. He plays a character, Tarantino does.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
He
saw that.
gets a very messy death.
Albeit a small one.
I remember seeing 4 Rooms.
And
in 4 Rooms.
Rooms is the one on the bottom of my list. I hate that movie so much. Everybody's overacting so terribly in that.
I don't even remember.
That's like a 4 director thing.
Remember it.
Yeah.
The one
I don't even know which part Tarantino directed in that.
Tarantino directed the
but
one.
I just know I skimmed through it, and Tim Roth is so over the top, crazy.
Yeah.
It was.
This is
almost
Tim
like
Roth. Come on, he's a good actor. What the hell?
And we didn't get it very many places in Pittsburgh. It was very strange.
It wasn't much. Tarantino directed the segment with
the kids.
Where they're doing the gambling. The guy's like,
okay,
gets the fingers chopped off.
Okay, all right. That should have tipped me off.
But I mean, it's. I've seen it. It's okay.
Yeah. Oh, the one
That's
that
it.
was
It's just
really
okay.
good.
Yeah.
It was not directed by him, but I believe it was written by him, and he definitely was in. Was True Romance. That was a
that was one of his scripts.
Favorite of mine. I liked that one a lot. But
and I love the performance as an actor in Dusk to Dawn, which is Rodriguez again.
I remember that. Yeah.
Well, my honorable mentions. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I thought was really good. I didn't didn't love it as much as I was hoping to, but it's a good movie. I mean,
Couldn't live up to the hype.
it just
Oh my
yeah,
god,
it
I
didn't
might
live
have
up to the
done
hype
that
We
for me.
both
because
hyped it
I
up a
just
lot for you.
loved that movie the first time I saw it,
Yeah.
which was like 2
And maybe
days
if
ago.
I'd seen it sooner,
Yeah.
it might have been higher. But I do love the performances. I like the alternate history of the what happens with the Mansons. I like the performance. Well, I already said that. I think DiCaprio and Pitt did a wonderful job. And again, it's that bromance that Tarantino does so well. Margot Robbie, even though she was kind of hyped up a little too much as Sharon Tate, didn't really have that much to do in the movie. I do love that when she goes to the theater and watches the Wrecking Crew, and of course we've had to have the requisite feet shot, the shot of her feet, because that's a Tarantino trademark, his little kink. But overall, to me, it's Pitt and DiCaprio that made that movie for me. I love the scene where he's talking to the little girl. That's my favorite scene, and she's just so like erudite and just so like so wise beyond her years. Talking about her. Oh yeah, I don't break character until and I don't eat lunch before I do a scene because I don't want to feel bloated and all that stuff. And giving him all these life lessons, and then later on when they perform the scene and he has to throw her down, it's like, and he's all apologetic, like, "Oh, did I hurt you?" It's like, "No, I got pads. Besides, I throw myself down on the floor anyway." So it's just nice little things like that, and
The Bruce Lee scene.
and the Bruce Lee scene, yes, which that very much sounded like things Bruce Lee would say, when he was playing Kato, and
well, it sounded like him, but the character seems so not Bruce Lee. In that universe, he's kind of a douche.
yeah. So
So I don't know what caused him to do that because he is a huge Bruce Lee fan. They even had the Kato masks in Kill Bill, with the crazy 88.
Yeah. Well, like you said, this is an alternate universe.
Right.
And you just kind of have to.
It's the evil Bruce Lee.
The evil version
mirror,
of Bruce
mirror.
Lee. Exactly. It's the mirror universe.
You have to be evil or Sharon Tate doesn't get to live.
Exactly.
And again, I love Kurt Russell's character in it as well.
Kurt Russell, yeah. And it's interesting. And again, it's that kind of twisty thing. I mean, it's not the same character, but in Death Proof, he plays the evil stuntman Mike, and in this one he plays a stuntman. Although this is the as the alternate universe, he's the good stuntman in this one, even though he's not very happy with Bruce Pitt because
Brad Pitt,
rather, Bruce Pitt. Brad Pitt, because everybody thinks that he killed his wife, which I think might be kind of an allusion to the whole Natalie Wood situation. And I almost really expected, because he had that scene where the flashback where the wife is just nagging him and all this, ragging on him, and he's got the spear gun and it's on his lap and it's pointing at her, and it's like, going to show that, or are we going to see him killing her or not? And now they cut away, so again they leave it up in the air of, did he really do it or didn't he? But and again, another killer soundtrack of 60s music. That if you grew up in that era like I did, and into the 70s, oh man, it's like a feast for the ears. And that's the thing that I think everybody comments on, is that Tarantino knows how to put soundtracks together, and he usually, like I said, does it before he does the movie, as inspiration. And now, of course, he has the money to where, hey, if he wants a song in the movie, he's going to get that song in the movie. So that's not the issue. But anyway, so Once Upon a Time, Django Unchained, And Franco Nero actually has a small cameo in the movie as the original, who was the original Django. Um, I did put Death Proof in there, which I didn't really like this movie at the beginning, but I've kind of gotten to it. That's good. I can watch it. But yeah, it's a little too over the top, and not really as good as Rodriguez's contribution. Hateful Eight, which I thought was
Hateful Eight is growing
interesting.
on me. as we've
Yeah,
talked
well,
about.
that's how I felt about.
Again, I just saw it 2 days ago, so it's
Yeah,
as much as I hated it when I saw it, it's kind of growing on me. It's I'm remembering things and
yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's funny that you say that, because that's exactly how I felt about Death Proof. It's kind of grown on me, and I did like the Hateful Eight when I saw it, but I thought
Bruce Dern.
Bruce Dern, yeah,
He was able to get the guy that shot John Wayne in the back for his Western. Ennio Morricone. He got the Academy Award finally. I don't think obviously they gave it to him because he's gone. But he should have gotten it for Once Upon a Time in the West. That should have been the one that got him the real Academy.
Yes.
Or even The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Yeah. Either one, yeah.
He's been nominated like 5 times, but he never got the award for music, and for composing. And he got it for Hateful Eight. So making it an Academy Award-winning Tarantino film.
Yeah. Oh, and speaking of Bruce Dern, he's also in Once Upon a Time. He has that little cameo as George Spahn.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you? Who are you saying?
I like how we revisit so many different things in the movie. I think that's why people are looking for connections between the different films, because they do seem like they're happening in an alternate world.
Yeah.
But
he even got Red Apple
access it,
into
which is really great. But you do want to explain that,
Yeah. Well, like Red Apple cigarettes keeps popping up in a lot of his films, and even at the end of there's like a post-credit sequence at the end of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood where Rick Dalton is making that commercial, which they used to do inline commercials in TV shows where he's promoting Red Apple cigarettes, and that's the brand that Bruce Willis smokes in Pulp Fiction, and I think they show up in other movies as well. So
we found the connection.
That's it. It's cigarettes.
Yeah.
It's the Red Apple universe.
Yeah. It's the Red Apple universe. Exactly. Thoughts on the ending of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? I thought it was great. Like I said, I love the fact that the Manson cult winds up in the wrong house, and it's
I love that so much.
and get killed.
Brad Pitt's house with his
Brad
pit bull.
Pitt's house.
Something falls
and
into the pool in front of that guy. It's just so great.
And and smashing Squeaky From's face just everywhere, just smashing her face.
And I'm like, I guess if I'm on board, I don't care how graphic it gets, because when he got out that flamethrower, I was cheering.
Like he's got the flamethrower, and
it was great.
Burns her to death. Yeah.
But that was when I started thinking, and I read an article about the difference between Jules and Vince, right, in Pulp Fiction, and that's when they were saying, because somebody had called Quentin Tarantino's universe amoral, so like there are no morals, so it doesn't matter if there's violence. But I don't think so. Like, I think the people that are bad are getting it, and the people that are good, they seem to, skate past. So
it has its own morality. It has its own version of morality. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I never realized how similar. I mean, and maybe it's just because we just watched David Lynch movies, but it just seems so. Like they have so many things in common. And I was thinking about some other movies too, like
but you were saying he was busting on him earlier.
Quentin
He can't tell a
Tarantino
story.
said horrible things about David Lynch. But that could be. I mean, when I was in college and I was watching Quentin Tarantino movies, I was also going to watch David Lynch movies. I mean, he started earlier, but he was very prominent throughout the 90s. So it was just kind of a friendly little fight. But Quentin Tarantino's kind of rough around the edges, and Lynch is just very smooth. So I think that there might be something, but it would be interesting. The other thing that would be interesting is pick any of these movies and just make a list of all of the things that they're talking about and what you remember and what year you remember it from. And I think that would be fascinating because he just
I'm sure people have done that
everything.
already. Yeah.
He packs in everything. He's like, oh, I love that. Here, I'm going to take that. And I love this. And I'm going to take that. And
yeah. Well,
it makes it very exciting.
It comes from all those years of working at the video store, I probably.
Oh, absolutely.
And just absorbing all that cinema and and then of course all the, he says he has this huge record collection. So, yeah.
Definitely. And everybody loves this story too. That's every video. I mean, I never worked at a video store, but I imagine that's, everybody's dream. But I mean, he really earns it, I guess, is also the big thing for me. He is a master of his craft for sure.
Yeah.
I want to give a nod to Jennifer Jason Leigh for Hateful Eight and her despicable character that ends up with Channing Tatum in her hair. And let's see if Channing Tatum gets in another Quentin Tarantino movie. I got a feeling. It's my prediction.
I wonder what the 10th one will be.
Who knows?
Yeah. Well, it's not going to be Star Trek. It's not going to be Star Trek, apparently. Yeah. Well, he wrote his. I gotta mention this. Many, many years ago, I saw a little comic strip and I think this was around the time, it's like in the 90s, after Pulp Fiction. There was actually somebody made a little comic strip of what if Tarantino had directed a Star Trek movie, and of course it's they have the Enterprise and like a Klingon ship, and we're going to be like two little Vulcans, and what are Vulcans like? Cool, and just basically repurpose some of the dialogue, but it's in the Star Trek universe. And then of course years later he actually writes a script for a new Star Trek movie that was kind of based on an episode of the show, kind of like Wrath of Khan was. So I thought that, the one about where everybody they're like the gangster planet. And at the end of the show, they were like, I think Bones leaves behind like his communicator or whatever. And the culture is very imitative. And Kirk is like, oh my God, well, what if they become so advanced that they want a piece of our action? And that was the premise of the movie. It's like, this is what happens when this culture becomes this, this gangster from the 30s suddenly gets all this advanced technology. What are they going to do with it? Are they going to become even bigger gangsters now? Or, and it was...
We found your technology.
Yeah. So...
We found it. We're using it.
Yeah, see, they could have brought Robert De Niro back. So that would be...
Klingons that came here, we took care of them real quick. They were easy.
They were easy, yeah, zap, zap, they're done. Okay, all right. So next week, Renee.
Yes, next week. What are we doing?
Well, are we going to have a show on the 23rd?
Oh, good question.
Or are we going to take Christmas week off?
Wait a minute. Next week would be
the 16th.
The 16th, yeah.
Yeah. And then the week after that is the 23rd.
Right.
So I was thinking if we want to go ahead and take that week off, that
Mhm.
next week we do our favorite Christmas movies.
Okay,
We do it next week
that sounds good. I like it.
because it's it's close enough to Christmas time, and it's the whole holiday season anyway, December.
It's December.
So
It's
December.
We already kind of. Oh, that was the other show. The Big Monster Briefing Room already started.
They're doing Christmas movies.
They're doing
now,
they're doing
yes.
horror
Yeah.
movies. Yeah,
With
yeah.
The Nightmare Before Christmas. That was
Right, they're doing
Next time is Santa's Sleigh.
Santa's
SLAY.
Santa's Sleigh.
Starring
SLAY.
Goldberg.
Yeah.
As Santa.
So there you go. Yeah. All right. So next week on this show, Christmas movies. Of course,
Okay,
Die
thank
Hard.
you. This was fun
Die
as
Hard.
always.
It ain't Christmas until he falls off the Nakatomi building.
Exactly.
Hans Gruber.
Hans Gruber. Yeah.
A few laughs.
Yeah. Yeah. Where's our gal?
Well, we have two gals today. So like I said,
Where's our other gal? Our original gal.
Our original
I'm
gal.
here. I loved. Oh, and we have a dog cameo.
And we have a doggy
We have
cameo.
cameo.
Yes.
So
That's why I kept
cute.
ducking out because I could, She doesn't care. She doesn't care. She's so used to this now. Like, oh, he's talking to
Can I
nobody.
be on the show?
Exactly.
You pet me while you're on the show?
So cute.
Anywho, so next week, Christmas movies. Anything else anybody wants to flog here?
Tomorrow on Roland Pruitt's Kaiju Review, they will be talking about Frankenstein Conquers the World, and George Morgan from Japan is going to join them again. So that should be fun.
Yeah.
It's always a good time with George.
Yeah.
And like I said, Santa's Sleigh on Thursday.
Santa's
At the Big
Sleigh.
Monster Briefing Room. I don't know what we're gonna do the week after. I don't know why the Krampus. It's just I don't know why I'm avoiding it. Why I'm like, yeah, I really don't want to do it. It's not a bad film. Interesting monster too in Krampus, but we'll see. We'll see what we do.
I mean, we've done Beaster Day, so
is there a Santa versus Zombies movie out there somewhere? Is there a zombie film?
There's Santa versus the Martians.
Yeah.
There might be a Santa versus zombies. Who knows?
I'm gonna have to look. I'm gonna
have to look. Look it up. Yeah. If there is, we're so doing that.
If there's zombies at the North Pole, I'm there. Yes, that's gonna be it. Find it. Help us out, viewers. If you know it, send it.
There you go. All right.
Like Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. It's just it's perfect.
Exactly. There you go. It's another
Get the
one.
flamethrower, Mom.
Oh.
If it hasn't been made yet, we should write it.
Santa versus zombies. I mean,
it's
it's so there. It writes itself practically.
Zombies at the North Pole.
So, all right then. Well, thank you to our guest Elana Lange for being our very talking Tarantino tonight.
Thank you.
And so next week, our favorite Christmas movies. So remember to like and subscribe and press all the buttons down somewhere around your computer screens, and join us next week. Thanks for watching this episode of Two Guys and Sometimes a Gal Talking About Movies. Be sure to like, subscribe, and click that notification bell to get future episodes.